Just already pressed it. It's on. It's happening right now. We're already live. What's up, guys?
Uh-oh. Hi.
Hey,
Hi.
Jonathan,
Hi.
Megan, Brian, and our special guest, Brad, is back. Hey, Brad.
Hi, everybody. Hi, friends.
Hey,
Hi,
Brad.
Brad. Good to see you, man.
What an amazing treat. We are coming at you to go deep into 1985 when Brad and I went on tour for the first time. So we have some memories to share from 85. Brad, it's good to have you back. Brad, how is life? We talk about our lives a lot, but what's going on with you?
Yeah, you and I know each other's lives pretty well, but nothing, man. Just I'm at the office. I'm doing the pod from the office, like a true adult.
That is so great. It's good to see you. Brian, how are you doing?
Yeah.
Welcome back. It's been a week. It's been a week or so.
It's been a week or so. I'm doing well. It's very snowy here in Colorado. We are celebrating my daughter's second birthday, which is just insane.
Nice.
Happy birthday to her. And I listened to a lot of Fish today, which was very different from other days.
That is fair. All right. Well, Jonathan and Megan, feel free to update us on how you're doing as well. I think the people hear from us the most, but
I'm great. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad Brad's here. I'm glad they're all here. This is so nice.
Yeah.
And I also am great. And I also listened to a lot of Fish today, which is not common anymore these days. But
well,
that's okay.
Well, here we are. So we're going to talk about this 10/30/85 show, and we're rolling through 40 for 40. We are going to be. I thought we were on our episode 3, but we're actually on episode 4, right?
No, we're on episode 3.
3.
Oh, it's 3.
Okay.
I see things are still pretty organized around here.
Yeah, you're rolling faster than we are, RJ.
I think it's
more
important
things
to
change,
note.
the more they stay the same.
Bro.
Can I just note that since my last episode talking about 40 for 40, I've not only been conceived, but I've also been born, and I'm now a 9-month-old.
A long week.
8-month-old. It's been a long week.
A lot has happened.
I'm hanging out at home in Chicago Bears onesies, watching a 15-1 team that's going to win the Super Bowl.
Ooh.
Just a really, really good life while Fish is
Good memories
out
of
how to
that.
be Fish.
Yeah.
I had great memories of it. If you want me to rank every game of the season, you got to listen to our bonus content.
I'm not available to film that episode.
That's
So,
the content that Brian pays you to listen to.
Exactly.
I take everything that I get and I just pay you guys to listen to it. It's amazing.
Now, wait, you're 9 months old in October 30th, 1985?
Something around that. I don't know. I was
Okay.
born in March of 85. So
Okay.
what am I, like 7 or 8 months old? I don't know.
Mhm.
What is time?
I was
You're a baby.
11.
You were
I think
11.
11.
Mm,
Yeah.
I was 8.
So I have really no excuses for missing this show. Sorry.
No.
I want to
You could've
apologize.
been
Bernie
now.
would have been there.
Yeah.
Well, as we learned
Definitely
recently, your first concert was the Grateful Dead like 7 years later, which is just insane to me. But
6 years later.
your guys' memories of the 80s are my memories of the 90s. But anyway, we're getting off track here. RJ, bring us right the ship here.
Well, no,
please.
we never were on track, so that's good.
Is there a track?
There is no track. Brad and I were 6, I guess,
That's right.
in 85. So, all right. So that's
We're
now
only-
that we've established how old we were.
9 years and 363 days away from our first show.
You could feel it.
Wow, good
Yeah,
math.
that's awesome.
You could,
Impressive.
I like that.
taste the grilled cheese sandwiches coming
I
from
like
the
That's
lab.
right.
Yep.
Wow.
Okay, so we're at Hunt's, and I guess so. Brian, do you have any details on so where Hunt's was before Nectar's, right? And they seem pretty excited to be at Hunt's. I think this was maybe their 5th show at Hunt's. They started playing there in 85, and they seem to be pretty psyched to be there. I think this was like a step up from the dorm rooms.
Yeah, you get the sense this is their 4th show of 18. Their last one will be just over 2 years later, 11/19/87, and it's kind of the venue that, to your point, they just keep kind of coming back to as they're doing small tours and small runs throughout the Northeast. At this point, they're really only playing in Vermont. Trey makes a comment at some point during the show how great it is to be at Hunt's and be back on planet Earth after playing Goddard College the week prior, which just like gives you the sense that like while these guys are going to school at Goddard, they kind of realize like, the hell are we doing? Like we need Burlington to like grow this band in any sort of way, but also like all of our creative juices are flowing at Goddard College.
Well, isn't that the show where they took too much acid and couldn't play?
Yeah, I think that's also
That's
what he's
what I
referring
think.
to.
Mhm.
the 26th?
Yeah.
They're a little unmoored, I think, in that particular night. But yes, I think at Goddard at large, as you described, Brian, that's true too.
Yeah. One thing just of note, I was doing some research on the Fishonian site. Huge shout out. We've had them on in the past. They're awesome. So Hunt's was gutted in 2003 and renovated in 2014 after a huge fire in 2003. It became Shana Naz in the late 80s, so it was that until 2003. B.B. King, Roy Orbison, Greg Allman, Pat Metheny, Taj Mahal, and Jerry Lee Lewis all played on the stage at Hunt's alongside of Fish. I don't know who was more honored to be playing there, Fish or those notable musicians at the time, but it's a pretty cool thing for them to pass through those ranks.
I got to say, I think the term alongside implies something maybe a little different from what went down. Just
You mean they
putting
weren't
that
sharing
out.
the stage?
They weren't sharing the
Yeah.
stage, but
Yeah,
like they
yeah.
grace the same stage. That's a pretty cool
Yes,
thing.
that is cool.
And it's a notable thing for Fish early on in their career.
So according to the internet, it was a 300 person venue, and it was actually called R.W. Hunt Mill and Mining Company, but people just called it Hunt's. But 300, and I guess like Nectar's isn't that much different capacity wise, but like I think Nectar's just gave them the residency, so they just started playing there, became more of a destination. But now we know where we are. Suddenly we have a bunch of like originals for the first time.
Yeah.
Which is
RJ,
pretty
can I
cool.
talk a little bit about what was happening with them? Like, since
Yeah,
the
please.
last episode that we talked about. So
I
they
would love
played
that.
those 4 shows in 1984 that we know of. Jonathan, I'm going to be a stickler this week. And we have 28 known shows in 1985. I'm saying that so Jonathan doesn't get mad at me, because we had a lively debate last week about if there are other shows we don't know about. So, Jonathan, I'm on your team this week, okay?
All right.
And
If a
a
tree
lot's
falls, the
happened since
forest.
then. Yeah, exactly. But a lot's happened since then. Like, Paige invites them to play at Springfest at Goddard, and then he sits in May, which is a pretty big deal. He plays like during parts of the third set. And then that summer, they're kind of on hiatus again while Trey and Fish go to Europe. And Trey almost drowns in Europe and writes Harry Hood, which is going to be important later on in our discussion. And Paige moves to Burlington while Trey and Fish are in Europe, and Gordon teaches him the whole Fish repertoire. And so when they come back, they sneak him in the band. So it's kind of a big deal. And they kind of force him into the band, Gordon does, which I think is just genius.
I love that.
Mm-hmm. It's a
It's
good
like-
part of the story.
Mike is such significant moments in Fish history in the weirdest of ways. Like forcing a
Totally.
band member on Fish feels very aggressive. Like especially to force someone on Trey. You would imagine Trey would be the one to be like, no, this guy's playing with us. You guys are cool with that, right? Everyone's okay with that, right? You guys are okay. But like for Mike to take the lead on that and be like, he's playing with us. And then you think about like 1997 and the sound that like comes out just out of Mike Gordon, like 15 years later. I don't know. His presence is made in such odd ways throughout the entire history of this band.
I think the word
Yeah.
odd can be underlined a few times.
Yeah, he's so
And, there
weird,
we
but
go.
he's so important. Yeah. I
I think
agree.
he likes it. He likes it that way for sure.
Oh yeah.
He wants
think
it.
so.
Persona, yeah.
Yeah, I like ran into him a few times when we were in Europe, and every time I met him, it was so weird. Like he would just be so odd and not normal at all. Like everyone else, you'd run into them and they'd be gracious and cool, and he would just be like, "Oh, hey," like so odd and not normal. But that's kind of his mystique, right? It's the cactus.
That's Mike. That's it.
Mhm.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So that was pretty. So the big thing that happened since we talked last week is that we have a new band member.
Yeah.
Yeah.
which is
And
which
this
is pretty
that,
cool.
like, weird time, right, when there's, like, Jeff and Paige in the band.
Yeah.
Well, they're a
Yeah.
two-guitar band. Fish is and always will be a two-guitar band, right? That's what I'm learning in these past 3 weeks.
I feel like
That is in my
when
notes actually for later. Yeah, we will talk about
I feel
that.
like when Trey does the intro and he says like "Welcome to Hunts" or "Fish," he sounds like really excited, like a little giddy that they're. I think Paige coming in the band probably like really gave them another step in the right direction. You know, it feels like they're entering a different phase.
This
Yeah, and I've
sounds
got to
like me too.
wonder. Yeah, I've got to wonder, just at this point in their history, because if you listen to this show, Hood and Slave, most notably up front from just an original standpoint, the sound is so fleshed out with the keyboards added into it. And if you took those keyboards out and it's just Trey and Jeff adding those textures, I don't think it's the same band. Not to jump ahead too far, but like to me, the musical highlight of the show, the Skippy the Wonder Mouse jam,
Mhm.
Paige is just stunning throughout that. And if you don't have him at that point in time, you just don't add this other element of Fish that makes them so special.
It's true.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to, I don't know if we're talking about the show, but he's drowned out in the
into it.
beginning, like you mentioned. The Hood, he's not even, you can't really hear him, and you think it's still just the four of them, meaning, 3 plus Jeff. And then, during the Possum, I think, or maybe the song before, you're like, oh, there is Paige, and you can hear him on like his little dink donk keyboard,
That's the official term for it, the dink dong.
Yeah.
That's it, the ding
I
dong.
think RJ and I called it what, like back in the day, it was like my first keyboard or whatever.
Yeah.
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 It sounds pretty like small
Yeah.
in that.
Comparatively now, especially like when you hear those beautiful segues that he fills during Hood with those amazing machines he has now and instruments.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I was listening to an 87 Hood today and it sounds totally different. Like it almost sounds like, I mean, maybe he did upgrade and change his rig in between, but it definitely sounds much fuller than it did in this show. I agree. I couldn't like really hear. I sort of forgot that he was part of the band until some certain part of the show, and I was like, oh yeah, that you can hear him, but it's kind of inconsistent.
But he's only been
Yeah.
in for like a month, right?
Right. And he and Jeff are kind of there's a little push and pull over whose
Yeah.
parts are what, and sometimes Jeff is more to the fore, sometimes Paige is more to the fore, but there's really still only kind of 4 parts to a lot of these songs.
Yeah, you get the
even though
sense
there's
that
5
Trey has
players.
not really started the heavy compositions that are coming a year from now when he starts writing parts of
Yeah.
Fluffhead, when he
Mhm.
starts writing You Enjoy Myself, when he starts taking compositional lessons, even parts of Hood, as we'll get into, they're kind of just like it's just like a smear of sound until they get to the Hood jam. Like it doesn't fully sound like defined segments of Harry Hood as we would get used to later as they build up towards that beautiful Bliss segment.
Yeah,
I do
well,
love
we
good
got it.
smear, though.
Good schmear. we got to talk about the Hood. I mean, is it Mike who has that like space kind of spacey effect during
I
Hood?
know. What is that? It's so cool.
It's very hard to hear, but when you hear it, it's like it sounds like it's like a first step.
Yeah, it's
My
that
first
section
effect
right
pedal.
before like Thank You, Mr. Minor. That section is like pretty funky and spacey. I don't know who's making it.
It's got to
Yeah,
be
I don't
Mike.
think I have that answer.
Let's just say it's Mike. What
Yeah,
do you guys
it's
think of
super, like,
this?
It's super like proggy and weird. I love it. I mean, I actually think when I was listening to this Hood, it was like the first one out of these 3 shows that we've listened to so far. When I think I texted you all, I was getting a little emotional because it sounds like Fish. It sounds like the band that we love, and you can hear it. Even the banter and the way that they're talking throughout the show and the way that they're kind of showing their personality and making jokes, it just felt like this is the band that we will all fall in love with. And I feel like you can hear it in this Harry Hood. Trey sounds beautiful. The solo is gorgeous.
Yeah, this is, of all the shows that we've talked about here to this point, this is kind of the start of the band, where
Yeah.
you have Paige, who's not going to leave the band. Jeff is going to be He's going to leave the band within the next 6 months. 1986 is going to start to establish some foundational aspects of who Fish will be for the next, basically through 1.0, from both a song selection standpoint, from an aspect of shows like Halloween are going to be really, really big events for the band. They're going to start to tour a little bit outside of Vermont. And by 87, 88, 89, like a much more professional aspect of the band is taking shape. I think it's also notable, like we're talking about 10/30/85. Jonathan and I talked during Undermine season 1 about 11/23/85. That's going to be a very big show for the band in terms of what they do from an improvisational standpoint. So we're just at a point where like a lot of elements of Fish are starting to come together. And to hear a song like Hood, I mean, this is like the first Tweezer, the first You Enjoy Myself, the first Down with Disease. Like this is just one of those songs that when it debuts, it's going to push Fish into another stage of their career, and it's going to really set another foundational piece of what is going to be important about this band going forward. They're not really going to open sets or shows with Harry Hood much going forward. It's going to transition to be kind of like the closing chapter of a show, but it's just it's that stamp of one of the things that makes them so unique and so, you know, makes listeners so eager to come back to them on a regular basis.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like all the things that have to happen for this to end up where we are 40 years later, or whatever, you know, with them finding Paige or Paige finding them and Trey starting to write these songs. I mean, it's pretty wild to think about, because who knows? I mean, you know, with billions of people in on Earth, like it's just, maybe they would have found another Paige. Maybe they like, I don't know, but it's pretty crazy that all came together like in the same whatever year or something. To really become like what it is.
It's magic.
What it would be the whole time, you know?
It really reminds me of, I mean, it's sort of adjacent to that 5/16/95 show from Lowell at Voters for Choice concert, where there was one set and there was a bunch of debuts, and among those debuts was Free. And I think that set those songs, especially Free, kind of set a tone for a new Fish going forward in the late 90s. I get that kind of here, especially with Paige, his first recorded show, or you know, whatever it is, and they're very excited. They're very excited about the lyrics of Hood, which I thought is the first time, probably the only time, that they've ever been excited about, you know, the lyrics.
Really let us know the backstory in this.
Yeah, I think
it's so great.
Backstory explainer is kind of hilarious.
And it's like so fitting, right? It's so who they are. Like they take this ridiculous story and it's silly and playful, and then they have this like gorgeous musical segment after. Like that's quintessential Fish. Like that's what Fish does best. So
Totally.
It's like them do
Mike
that
makes a
the
joke
first
even.
time.
Sorry.
Yeah. Is it Mike who makes it? I couldn't tell. Yeah.
Yeah,
about
about
they're gonna pay them sponsorship. He's like, they're gonna pay us to play it. I just know it. The banter in this show is awesome. They talk so much. It's so fun.
Harry Hood from Burlington to Greece really just like gives you the sense of it's Hood and it's this life-changing experience on the shores of Greece.
You know, it's amazing that they never had a Hood dairy like anything.
It
you
is
know,
weird.
you'd have thought like over time they would have done that.
I think they just got over the idea of it. Just they didn't need it by the time Hood Dairy needed them. Fish didn't.
Yeah,
they didn't want to turn off all those conservative milk drinkers, right? With this hippie.
Well, Brad and I have a friend whose dad used to work for the Hood Dairy empire. So we, you know, if we could only go back in time, we could have planted this with them. But
Paul was the delivery guy or the sales rep or something. That's awesome. Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah, it's incredibly Northeast. So I don't know, this probably incomplete as it notes on FishNet. We don't really know, but what else did you guys think of that first, you know, with Doglog and Possum, Slave, Sneak and Sally? What other notes do you guys have on the music? I have some notes on the songs that Jeff sings, the 2 covers, but I'll wait on that.
So I believe that Jeff is still singing on Possum here.
Yeah.
And it sounds way more like CCR to me than this like Fish boogie that you'll get when Mike starts singing it, and they kind of adjust just the delivery of it. It's a little different sound.
Quite it isn't quite what it settles into in the post Jeff era. It's a little more of that. Well, it's closer to the Swamp Boogie, the Skinner Swamp Boogie tune, which
is an interesting like idea of like Fish having songs like that over the next 40 years. Like with Jeff still being in the band, you still get this weird what if they were a 2-guitar band, like how that would impact them. Sally, I have some notes on because I thought this Sneaking Sally was really interesting. Mainly, like, you just hear Mike and the importance of Mike from the jump of the band. Like the way that he connects musical phrases and connects lines in the song with these just very subtle, like 3-note bass grooves. There's just like an inherent groove to how Mike plays that you hear from the start. It's never something he learned. It's not something he's uncomfortable with. Like, it's a part of what makes Fish danceable from the start. You hear Trey say at the top of the show, like, I hope you all came prepared for dancing. And like, if you look at pictures of Fish in the 80s, you're like young people are not going to those guys' concerts like to get down. Like that's just like, it's just kind of ridiculous. But like they have Mike Gordon who knows how to groove from the very beginning, and you hear it throughout the Sneaking Sally. Much better than the cover of I Wish, I will say.
Yeah, I think this like really hints at the jam band the dance band that they're going to become. You know, I feel like you can feel them wanting to make people dance in a way that actually works. And this has a pretty good vocal jam. And I'm saying that as someone who hates vocal jams, but they do a pretty good job of it. It's not that bad considering. But I wanted to talk about The Slave quickly because it's actually really gorgeous. And I just love listening to it and thinking about what this song would have been like to hear in a really small bar, because this song is just like so epic. And you know, when you think of like Slave to the Traffic Light, you have these like sweeping orchestral moments in like MSG or like on like a starry lawn somewhere, and then here it is just in its like humble beginnings in this little bar, and it's tremendous. It's so cool to hear it played like this and think about where they were.
And you hear Trey practicing the build-up chords after the song is over. Like there's a moment of like,
I didn't see that. Hear that?
Yeah, just like very quietly. I think that they were talking, and like you just hear him play like the bum bum bum, like right in the background, almost to be like, you could have gotten that better. Like, here's how we do it next time, type of thing, you know? Because like that delivery was so big, but you also hear them tuning up before the show. Like, there's just little elements of the show that it's clear they don't have anyone working for them at this point in time. Their actual presentation is so much shaggier than it would become.
Pardon us while we try to tune, Trey says at one point.
Yeah, doesn't he say like, I'll get some money? Maybe if I make some money, I can get some new strings or something at some point.
It's just light years from the band that we know. But, you know, the seeds are there. Doglog sounds a little like Doglog. What a great little and ridiculous tune. And it's always been great and ridiculous. I just love hearing it right there in the number 2 slot. Slave is beautiful. Possum's weird. And Sneakin' Sally is a good ass groove. I know RJ, you said you had some notes on the covers. I'm gonna just jump into that for a second and say that while I am a massive Stevie Wonder fan, I am not a massive fan of this band performing I Wish. I think the intent is there, and that's respectable.
Not appropriate.
But I don't know about that. But yeah, I don't
think he should be singing about being a nappy-headed boy. I just don't. But
yeah, maybe. It was the 80s. You could get away with a lot of stuff back then.
Yeah, fair-ish.
They're really bad. Both of those covers are just really bad, I think, is the main thing. Like it's like sounds like kind of like Jeff isn't really that into it. It just sounds like the whole band isn't really into those songs, either of them. I mean, the Revival like 2-guitar thing is cool, but I was wondering while I was listening to it, like, is he already like on his way out? You know, because it almost sounds like the energy of the show kind of like dips a little bit during those 2 songs, and then it kind of picks back up. But maybe I'm just reading too much into it.
Retrospect, it's like, well, it makes sense that he didn't stick around because it is kind of the weaker part of the show. I do like the 2-guitar thing in Revival. I
do too.
Enjoy the singing part of it too much. Sorry, Jeff.
No,
much love.
I think I think to the question of if Jeff was on his way out, like, one of the famous comments was that he didn't like when Trey brought You Enjoy Myself to the table. And obviously he was going through his own personal changes and evolution that impacted his decision. But like, if you think about this show, it's this balance between Hood and Skippy the Wonder Mouse, at least from the set that we have here, these songs that are starting to be more complexly composed. They're having longer jam segments that have more of like a prog influence than like an overt kind of dead influence that we heard in the first two shows. And then you have these like blues songs and cover songs in the middle. And I wonder if Jeff was more into, let's just get up on stage and play some covers, play some easy blues songs, we'll shred. And meanwhile, Trey is starting to introduce songs that are just going to completely push him away from the band at that point.
Makes a lot of sense. I mean, the stuff Trey was bringing was weird. It was nothing like what was being done anywhere. So it probably turned him off. I get it.
Do you guys want to know the top 3 songs of this week in 1985 to like compare to what Fish was playing?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We've been waiting for you to bring them up, Brian. Just waiting.
I want Jonathan.
I'm just gonna
for one and 3.
Ooh, can you guess any? Like I think you could get one if you thought really hard.
I don't know. I didn't do any research on this area because, I do probably know the songs, but I don't know what was hot in October versus the spring or whatever. So
Is
just
there
lay
like
it
a
on.
Tina Turner song on there?
There's not a Tina
I
Turner,
hope
but
so.
I will just say that 2 of these songs have been covered by a young jam band that mines this era. I won't say their name because this is a Fish podcast, though. Take on Me by Aha.
Oh, God, I love that song.
The Miami Vice theme.
Ugh.
By Gloria Stefan and the Miami Sound Machine.
God, they're sick.
And Head Over Heels by Tears for Fears.
Now, we talked about Head Over Heels or Tears for Fears last week because the album had just come out late in 1984. But it took the entire year for the multiple singles, which were all hits, to really resonate. And
it's a banger album.
It is a banger album.
Dude, it's a glorious time for pop music. It's as simple as that. Mid 80s.
Oh, just gate. I mean, Fish, if they had a synthesizer and gated drums at this point in time, think about the MTV possibilities. Those big chunky
Alumni
white
Blues
shoes that they used to wear. Oh yeah.
Straight to the top.
So, okay, Back to the Future came out 3 months before this, and there's none of those songs are in the top 5.
It's probably later because it's like, aren't things like delayed then? They weren't like previewed before, right? Like you have to see the movie.
It's just,
maybe.
I don't think the Huey Lewis hits had the staying power in the charts.
You better watch it yourself.
Yeah, he was so big. I feel like he was all people
he
heard
kept them coming, but like these weren't 16-week hits. These were like 3-week hits, 4-week hits.
Incredible.
Fair.
Yeah.
Fair. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I just thought we were going to be talking about Back to the Future today. That's what I prepped for. So I guess that was it.
Oh, man.
It's your kids, Marty.
If you want.
Tell us your 3 favorite scenes from Back to the Future. Table is yours.
Well, I mean, the first scene with the guitar, when he turns it up and it blows him. I mean, that's just great. I mean, the best scene is obviously the climax of the movie when Marty punches Biff. That's just such a
the car in the car. Oh,
yeah, the car.
Yeah, just
iconic.
great. Just great.
Generational anger pent up over, and then reversed. It's amazing.
Yeah. The weirdest part is when when he's in his mom's bedroom and she's like really attracted to him. It's very weird still, even after watching it like 100 times. But
it never gets less weird.
Yeah.
It gets
Yeah. But
so many scenes like
it's
that.
Your cousin, like, Marvin Barry.
That's a very good one. Come on. Very, very good point, Jonathan.
So good.
One of my favorite lines is, "You want a tab? You got to buy something."
Yeah.
He goes back to the diner, and
Did you just jump ship?
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
I could do this all
All right.
day.
Yeah. That's our other podcast probably. All right. So then after that kind of drop off, then they play Alumni, Letter to Jimmy Page, Alumni Blues, which is really fun. And then Prep School Hippie. Prep School Hippie has only been played 5 times, last time in 1987. But there's like a jam in the middle there that's really cool. And I've listened probably to whatever ones are available, but maybe not in a while. And that was kind of a surprise to me. It was kind of cool to go back to.
I kind of
Yeah, I
get
like
why
that
they
little
don't.
jam.
I kind of get why
Go
they
ahead,
don't
Brian.
play this song anymore, and I kind of get why like this or like Dear Mrs. Reagan are probably not coming back. Lushington as well, as much as I want them to. But I think like musically, there's something to be found in Prep School Hippie that could just be reworked as like an instrumental. I don't know. It's really like you can hear the seedlings of where Trey's going to go compositionally within this song. Lyrically, it's kind of ridiculous. Skippy the Wonder Mouse, the same. Obviously, this is going to turn into McGrupp, but the jam that's coming off of Skippy the Wonder Mouse is my favorite part of this overall set. And I would say my favorite part that we've listened to of the 3 shows that we've done of Fish thus far in their 40th anniversary recap. Like it's the moment where you hear kind of the surprise, this is what happens with improvisation, that will just keep me coming back.
We got to give Dina a lot of credit with Skippy the Wonder Mouse. He wrote it. Trey wrote it with his mom, and her profession and influence on the band, I think has never stopped. And that's just with kind of fun, goofy, sometimes childish lyrics. And yeah, a lot of them come from Tom or others. But I think we're 20 shows into this band, right? 20 some shows in, and it's been there from the start. So people who complain about the lyrics or the writing, just that maybe this isn't for them. They can go somewhere else.
Also, like
Yeah.
her
Well said.
interest in like Broadway and like her work on, didn't she work on Sesame Street as well? Like there's a educational aspect in a sense, like, but also like a lightheartedness, and there's a theatrical element to her influence on Trey, and you really hear it throughout like the building of like the Gamehenge universe and what that's going to become for the band. I think that's a really good point,
Hands on
especially
Hard
at this point.
Or like Ghost
Hands on
of
Hard
the
One.
Forest. Like that would never
Yeah.
have happened if Trey didn't have that kind of Broadway influence.
All
Yeah.
of the gags of the 3.0 era, are really
Those are all
Totally.
like an ode to
Broadway
Broadway over the years.
influence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can all just point right back to her for that stuff, which is great.
Well, I just want to. Can I just highlight this comment from Ryan? Because Ryan,
I saw it. I
sorry,
was just dying laughing.
Poor Ryan.
maybe it's good that you missed that part of the discussion.
Yeah. we didn't feel
but
this
RJ
way.
hated it, Ryan. He's
Well,
mad that it happened, and he wants it to be redacted from all the tapes.
I just want to say in my notes,
It's
I
not at all
don't
what
know
said.
why. I think it's kind of weird that they haven't played the Allman Brothers that much throughout their career. Like they sound good playing the music here, but yes, they don't have any business singing any Allman Brothers songs. So I guess it's good that they like weave Mountain Jam into like every 10 Down with Diseases.
Yeah, there you go.
I
There's
just
your
put in my
album.
notes that this was the beginning of Trey's Love and Light days. So it was there from the beginning, everyone.
Their harmonies just weren't there, and it's probably because they're young and they were in this little bar with no one helping them with sound. Their harmonies just weren't there, but they get there and they could do it now. But yeah, I don't think anybody's got any business playing Dwayne Allman other than Dwayne Allman, honestly.
Well, also, the Allman Brothers Band is a 2-guitar band, and the keyboard is an important role that you can't just like, oh, well, the Page can play the guitar part, because he's got his own job in an Allman Brothers cover. So
Greg's job, yeah.
Yeah, so they, if Warren Haynes is anywhere in a 30-mile vicinity and doesn't have anything to do, we can get an Allman Brothers cover. Because
He's already there. He's on
that's
his
what
way.
he does.
He'll be there.
Actually,
Someone just
I
gets out a slide and Warren Haynes like a bell
Yeah.
goes off above his head.
I'll
Appears.
go ahead
be
and say
there.
Warren has had to cancel a bunch of shows recently. He's been unwell, so shout out to Warren and
Shout out
best
to him.
wishes. Hopefully he is better and back on the road soon. I also want to say, while I have the floor, that I really like Letter to Jimmy Page, and I think this is a good version, and they rip it nicely. But I'm with you, Brian. The Skippy the Wonder Mouse is the thing that this show really brings us and that we should keep from this show, along with the hood. It's kind of beautiful,
Yeah.
and I
Yes.
listened to it twice because why wouldn't you?
I mean,
it's
we all
one of
went.
those
Kinda great.
jams. It's one of
Go
those
ahead,
jams
Nick.
you can listen to when you can kind of actually get lost and forget
Yeah.
you're listening to early Fish, and you feel like you're just listening to Fish. That's kind of how I felt during the jam. Like Paige comes through, like you can hear Fishman doing these like rolling drums. Trey starts playing these like really high pitched riffs, and you can just kind of like you're lost in a jam, which is the first time that I felt that way since I've been listening to these early shows, and it was exciting.
It's one of those moments. I mean, we're not going show by show, so like we're seeing significant jumps, but like it's
Mhm.
one of those moments that like it sounds like Fish for the first time. You
Yeah.
hear Harry Hurt early in the show, you hear Slave, but like from an improv standpoint, Skippy just gives you that sensation of what, no matter the style, no matter the better gear and sound quality and the better venue that they're playing in 10, 15 years from now, that whatever happens in that jam is going to be replicated and messed around with for the next 38 years.
I mean, it's no Scarlet Fire, but I'll take it.
I don't want to go back. I mean, but I will, because in my notes, the possum and the slave in the beginning, like Doglog, possum kind of sounds like Doglog in the beginning.
Yeah.
But just those two songs, Possum and Slave, those are RJ's somewhat like deep breath songs, or sigh songs. Like when he hears them, he knows what's going to happen and he doesn't get very excited. But it's funny that they've been around. I mean, Possum's one of the most played songs in their history, right?
Yep.
But RJ's still here.
Especially for me.
He's stuck
I
with
kind
them.
of feel that way too, RJ. It's okay.
Yeah.
Especially when I'm there. I always play it.
Worst.
We all know where Slave's
Thanks, Brad.
going and it's beautiful and all that, but like I'd rather listen to Hood than Slave.
They played Possum deep in the second set of the worst show I saw last year. One of the worst shows I've ever seen in my entire Fish Gone career. And I challenged myself with every song that started to be like, okay, find something positive here. And when the glow sticks went off during Possum, I was like, okay, I get why you guys play Possum. Like if I was in a band and I had like 40,000 people just enraptured with me, I'd probably play a song like Possum too. It's just a lot of fun.
It's a song for the first 10 rows of a venue. And
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I like that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is a good point. Yeah. I mean, yeah, when it's live, it's great. But I mean, I don't know if they have to play it so much.
They just don't make Possum like they did in like 94, 95, and 96, which, they don't make a lot of things like they did then. So maybe that's unfair, but it's just the truth. You get those 15-minute Possums that just slowly build out of dissonance. Say no more.
Well,
and they didn't.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So,
I mean,
I want to hear.
I was just going to say.
Go ahead, RJ.
Go ahead. But no.
Well, I just want to say I want to hear everybody's final thoughts because we've got another topic, and it's like after 5 o'clock or whatever. And we should probably keep moving.
Jonathan, keeping us on track.
People.
I like it.
Someday I'll get paid for this. This is a very professional podcast action. So let's go around the room. Brad, you are our guest. Maybe you could lead us with your
thank you
final thoughts.
Of the show. I gave my unique thought in that it reminds me of the 5/16/95 show, in that you get a bunch of new material, and it's really exciting to listen to it for the first time. And although I appreciate Jeff for what he's done, I don't. This show shows us that we didn't need him for the 40 years, just the first few.
Fair. RJ, do you want to follow that?
Respond?
Yeah. Oh yeah, let's bring him in now from the waiting room.
He's actually backstage. Just a second.
I mean, that's a fair, incredibly tough but fair take from Brad. Yeah, I mean, I think it's cool to hear these originals early on. I mean, we're finally, the first 2 years that we talked about really were just covers, so it's nice to hear these start to come through, and it's a pretty strong start for Harry Hood particularly. And I totally forgot that Prep School Hippie has that kind of jam that reminded me of something, but not exactly. You know, I had like almost like a little bit of a slave like jam going there for a little while, but I don't think it's ever coming back. Those are my takeaways. I think watching Jerry shake his fat, I think that just kind of makes it a little bit.
Yeah, no.
You know, I don't think it's going to happen.
Mm-mm.
That's all.
Megan, what's
We can change lyrics.
That's true. Yeah, I think this is an exciting show. I don't know if I've ever listened to the show before. So for me, this was really awesome to go back and listen to the show and hear Fish kind of creep out. In 1985, there were 29 debuts that Fish did, and 14 of them were original. So if they played around 28 shows, they're playing a lot of new music that they haven't played before, and they're writing a lot of music. So it's an exciting time for them, and you can hear that in the show. And I really love listening to it. That's my takeaway.
It's a good takeaway.
Brian.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I think this is the bridge. Like we've heard the band come together, find some mode of connection in the first two shows that we listened to. Obviously 83 and 84 scattered shows. There's a lot happening personally, but this is the moment where the band is realizing, at least four of the members, that we're going to commit to doing this long term. And so new songs are coming in that sound like Fish over the next 40 years. Obviously a lot of evolution, a lot of growth, a lot of development, a lot of huge new moments are going to come. But this is kind of the bridge from, okay, Fish is a pretty inconsequential college band to Fish is a band that everybody is going to be listening to as they discover them, and they're going to want to learn more and more about the band's history, which is probably the reason why people would not only listen to, but talk about on a podcast 12/2/83 and 11/3/84. I don't think those shows are being discussed in any sort of way without something like this happening a year later as the band's evolving.
Right. I'll build on that, which is to say that this is really the linchpin between kind of the early proto-Fish, which is what we discussed in the past two episodes, and what really Fish 1.0 is starting right around here.
Yeah.
This is where they become the band that we would come to know. And yeah, it's great stuff. Very educational, worth listening to. If you're a serious fan and you haven't checked this stuff out, you should listen to it.
All right. So we were also going to talk about hoods, but Brian, did we set parameters? Because I know you probably have a list of like 30 with like some asterisks and some double
We set
asterisks.
them, but Brian broke them.
What are the rules?
You set the parameters this morning, which I followed. So I wanted to know what your guys' favorite Harry Hoods were. I figured 2 would be enough to give us some diversity and conversation here. And then RJ narrowed it down further by said these have to be 2 that you've seen. Now that came after I already decided.
That did come at like 2:00 or something too, to be fair.
No, but I said for me. I wasn't trying to impose that on anybody.
So
never going to do anything other than that.
It's a good imposition. It's good. It's good to do that. So I came prepared with 2 that I have not seen that I think are my favorite Harry Hoods ever. And then after your aggressive text this morning, I added 2 that I have seen, which I think are really good as well.
Aggressive.
So aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I do it.
So how do we want to do this? Do we want to just go around and we can just name one and we can just
Like
kind of go round robin here?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let's do it. Yep. Brian, you have the long list. Why don't you start?
All right, I'll just read my 2 that are not shows I attended. 7/1/94 from Raleigh goes a little bit under the radar and has this beautiful, super quiet moment midway through the jam that is just one of my favorite things to return to. Aside from that, it's a very pure version of Hood. And then 7/31.
That's from the man. That's from the man. I just want to say sorry.
Not Raleigh. It's from the man. Thank you very much.
Man.
They were taking advantage of the acoustics inside of the man.
Exactly.
By playing that
Sorry.
jam.
Sorry to do that.
And then
someone's going to yell at us.
No, it's okay. I appreciate you doing that. I would rather you yell at me than someone on the internet that I can't respond to. And then Because I am a 2.0 stan, 7/31/2003 from Camden, New Jersey. It takes the blown out Type 2 Harry Hood approach that started in earnest in the 2.0 era, and it adds a ton of melody to it. And if you haven't heard it, it's insane, and it blows my mind every time I listen to it. So those are two I haven't seen. You guys can come back to me for the
I
two I have
somehow
seen.
never saw a 2.0 Hood. Weird.
They were really good. They were really good. They were very jammy and very cool.
I can tell you a 2.0 Hood that I saw and that Brad saw that was very bad, if you want me to. Actually, two.
Which one was
Two
that?
in a row. Well, Vegas 04. I mean, actually, it's pretty good. It's long and weird.
That's
but
a good
weekend
Hood.
was just, I know, but
That weekend
you
was a
know what I
disaster.
mean.
I know, but
And then the
It just doesn't
Coventry
make you feel
Hood.
good.
The Coventry Hood. I think Coventry Hood is when Trey said,
That's
we're
the
gonna
worst.
play this,
Oh, no.
and
Please
we're
don't
gonna,
do it.
You're gonna, where we're gonna stand on this rock. You guys can go talk about it at the campsite.
Oh, it's terrible.
Ugh.
we're talking about the good hoods. We're
I
trying
know,
to feel
sorry,
good.
sorry.
Anyways.
At least you didn't talk about like being over the mountain in the shed where he wrote. Like he's every night at Coventry he talked about that. He's like just over that mountain. I wrote
What
this
story
What's
song.
this
for you guys?
podcast about? What's the theme here?
All right, sorry.
Brad, do you have any hoods for us?
Yeah,
Just
I
want to
saw,
make it clear that I did not initiate a Coventry conversation today.
You
so.
didn't, Brian. You
Yeah,
didn't.
now we're skipping RJ for the rest of the episode.
Yeah. You're banned.
Oh man. You got to take the bad with the good. So the first one off the top is 8/10/97. It's from Deer Creek. And outdoor, just beautiful. It closed the first set, I think.
Yeah.
I wasn't prepared for this,
Yeah.
by the way. RG just told me to
did
listen to
warn
that.
him.
That one set show, and I was like, oh, this will be easy. So this, anyway, I remember that it was almost like the Bliss Jam. RJ and I did a little mini run, like 4 shows that summer, and the Bliss Jam to close that first set was like, well, this is
So
the
good.
best decision I ever made in my life to come to these shows.
Ever.
And then there was one from Dick's 2018. I don't remember which show it was, but the Dick's 18 Hood was, it sticks out that it was really
8/31.
good. Yes,
That's
the end of
that's
one,
actually
yeah.
on my list as well. That is one of my favorite that I've seen as well. That
High
was the first high five. That was the first set one Harry Hood of 3.0, and it came after the curveball disaster. It felt like a message the band was sending. You can feel good.
Mm.
They opened with Free, and then they went into Harry Hood, and it is the only time I've ever shed tears at a Fish show. I had to have a friend like give me a hug. I was so
No.
happy and sad and everything all at once.
The third one that comes to mind, RJ, and this is my last one, is the one from, we saw it at the Bill Graham. Did we not see one in like 18 at Bill Graham?
2018, yeah.
And that one hit you
Yeah.
hard, I remember, and that made
Yeah.
me feel, because I was there with you, and that was fun.
Yeah, that was a really good one. That I forgot about that one. That's a great. That one.
7/24, 2018.
That's right.
That was really good. I like those.
Nice.
Wow, so two of
good
mine are from
second set.
18, which is like I am a noob, so.
RJ, do you have more to
Yeah,
tell us about that aren't
I
Coventry?
have a lot more. Well, I do want to say for people who listen to this show and this show that we were talking about today, and listen to the 11/19/87 one, which is obviously 2 years later, and it's just so different. Like Page's piano is really much more prominent, and it just kind of underscores how important Page is to that jam when it works. So that's one people should check out. I mean, all the Fall '94 hoods are so good, but I think I've told the story about the one that I saw on January 3rd, 2015 in Miami at the end of set 2. That is not, I don't think it's like on any jam charts or anything, but that was one of the most meaningful for me. And there was one at Merriweather, I think in 2014, that was really great. 7/26/14. I have a lot of other ones, but this is up there. It's my probably my second favorite song to hear at a Fish show. The most recent one, never mind.
Yeah, I
We'll
was
come
at
back to
that
you for it, RJ.
that Merriweather show. The Fishnet says, while not as exploratory as some from summer 2014, this hood is by no means typical. The jam includes great trade licks, rocking chording, strong mic and page, and a solid peak. And I don't remember it at all, but I was there too.
I think I saw you on the lawn that day.
Maybe?
Yeah,
I don't know
we
if I
like
was
hung
on the
out.
lawn that day.
I think you were either that day or one of those shows was the first time that we met
Yeah. Well, how about
in
that?
person. Yeah,
That show is the night before that massive Tweezer Fest and gets overshadowed, I
Yeah.
think, for that reason. But it's that second set's no slouch. There's a really good light in there. There's a really good ghost, a really good Karinian. The hood is quite nice. It was a great summer for Harry Hoods.
the last hood. Sorry, the one that they played in Mexico last year was also really good. The last night, Sunday night, that was a great end to that Mexico thing. Okay, I'm done.
That was
Mexico
just
doesn't
because you were
count.
in the ocean, RJ.
It helps.
Megan, what do you
the
got?
ocean?
When you say Harry Hood to me, the thing that I remember first is 1996 because I saw 6 Harry Hoods that year. And so I feel like I have to talk about that. And the one that is the most memorable is because it's kind of a historic hood. It's the Red Rocks 8696. It's the first time the hood chant starts. And it was so amazing to be there. We were like, I've got the flyer, and it was such a crazy weekend just with all the things that were going on, with it being kind of like everyone coming from Dead tour, and it being, Fish having outgrown this venue, and, all the like police disturbance in Morrison. There was just so much going on. And this show was just such a comment on that, starting with like Makasupa. And there's just a million things going on in the show. But when that hood it started raining a few songs before the hood, and it was raining throughout the whole rest of the set. And when it's raining at Red Rocks and you're, 19 and you're on a lot of substances and your life is in front of you, and they play Harry Hood and the whole crowd does something for the first time together, and you could like hear the chant build up. Like it's loud at first, but then it gets like louder and louder and louder. And it was just one of those like magical moments I'll never forget. So I feel like even when the band has maybe an off year, they can still create these like incredible moments. So I'll always remember that hood. That's my first one. And the other one is actually the last hood I saw, and it was from August 5th, 2022 in Atlantic City, which is my favorite show.
It's a good one.
Yeah, it's good. It was my favorite show of the year. The intro is super patient. You've got this like dark, evil synth sounds. The crowd was just going crazy because it was the end of this like just incredible set, incredible show. And Trey's tone is so beautiful. His solo is perfect. Pages on the piano. It's just one of these like perfect hoods. And I'm just here to rep 2022 Fish because it's so much better than everyone thinks. So at the end of it, you even hear Trey say like, thanks everyone. That was really fun. And like say the ocean is love, So it's just Trey was in his feels during this hood. It was a good time.
Nice.
Better been. It was at the end of a great set. Awesome set of music. Those are good versions.
Thanks.
So I have 2. I'm going to work backwards in time. So, although I would give a shout out to the last one I saw, which was actually 2019, 2019, because it's got a really long note.
Yeah.
Really long note, which is always rad. But I'm actually going to 7/29/2017 Cinnamon Night, the Baker's Dozen. That Harry Hood was it was got this great little jam in it. I don't think it's especially long, but great little jam. And little first there is a mountain jam teases in that from Trey that kind of leads them out of the jam. And it's a big and beautiful and really good one. Most Harry Hoods that I've seen are good, at minimum, good. But then the other one that I want to highlight is 20 years earlier at the Great Went. So 8/17/97 out of the Art Jam which is itself great to listen to, even if you weren't there. But if you were there, it was, you kind of know what's happening and can visualize this. If they had released the box set last summer to mark the 25th anniversary, as I had instructed them to do, we'd all have watched it and feel like maybe we were there and have soundboard tapes of it. But the audience tapes are quite revealing on this Harry Hood. So do listen to them, because you can hear it develop. You can hear when, of course, you hear it on the soundboards when Trace tells Chris to turn the lights off so he can look at the moon, like they had done at the Gorge earlier in the summer, and they turn the lights off. You can see the moon was massive. It was so massive. And then the light sticks started happening, which also happened at the Gorge. Give everybody credit to, because somebody's always like, oh, it happened at the Gorge first. Who cares? It happened at the Great Went, and it was massive. And the glow stick war is massive, and you can, as I say, you can hear it developing. You can hear people like commenting in the taper section, and like, wow, whoa, and it's huge. And the peak plays to it. The band plays to the moment, and it's stunning. It's stunning bit of music that I'm getting emotional thinking about, and I just listened to it, this afternoon. And you should listen to it too. And then Trey makes the grievous error of telling the audience to go get more of those things, which he's probably still regretting.
Oh, that's amazing, Jonathan.
Thank you for that story.
Yeah,
it's a good one,
man.
I just want to say that I realized today when I was looking back, I haven't seen Harry Hood since MSG in April. I saw a lot of shows, like probably too many shows last year. So it's been almost a year since I've seen Harry Hood. That just doesn't seem fair to anyone.
Oh, yeah, because you missed that Atlantic City show. Sorry.
I missed all the.
I haven't seen one since 2019 somehow.
Wow.
Well,
which is crazy because it's one of my top 5 or 6 songs that I've seen.
It's really the best, right?
Yeah, it's all right.
The next one will be awesome. That's all I know.
Yeah, I saw 3 this year.
3, yeah. You get all the good ones, Megan. That's what happens.
I'm a good luck charm, I guess.
Yep. All right. Well, this is fun and always fun. Brad, come back again soon. Come back again.
Yes,
I'm going to. I will.
Awesome.
Yeah, so it's good to see your face and hear your
careful
voice
what you
and
ask
your
for.
lovely beard on the screen with us.
And when we
Thank
come
you.
back,
Great to see you
we
all.
have to talk about 1986 Fish. We're going to jump ahead one more year. It's going to be crazy.
We haven't had enough of, Brian, is sports history with these. So maybe next week we can do like some 1986 sporting highlights, for Jonathan and Megan.
I don't think I'm going to make it.
I can do that. There was a
What are they doing
great
to
World
us?
Series that year. And
Sorry, you're breaking up.
RJ, this is such a can of
Going in a
worms.
tunnel.
Brian is
I know.
literally going to write like an opus
I
about
know.
this.
That's why I did it.
the Boston Celtics put together one of the best basketball seasons in NBA history
Worms
that
everywhere
year.
now.
See, he doesn't even have to do the
Damn.
research. He just knows
All
it.
right, fine.
Amazing.
Okay. Thanks, everybody. See you next week.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks all.